Endowed from the start, what I want to talk about. I had the unbelievable good fortune of meeting Maezumi Roshi in 1975 at an introduction to Zen practice at Zen Center of Los Angeles. And he was nice enough. It was nice to meet him. I didn't know anything about him. I was a 22-year-old hippie surfer college student. So I was young, and I don't think I really appreciated the meeting at the time. 9 years later, I had the chance to live there at the temple at Zen Center LA and practice with him, which again, I don't think I really, at the time, appreciated how extraordinary that was. I got to listen to talks and be in the Zendo with him when he was there, go to Doksan. I wasn't even sure what I was asking for, but I asked him if I could practice the Muko on. And he said, sure. And gave me the slimmest possible instructions and sent me on my way. I stewed in those juices for a long time. And he died 10 years after that, and my appreciation for him has really only grown since. And I'm referring to him because I'm gonna work through one of the talks in his book, Appreciate Your Life. If you've not got this book, if you've not read it, if you've not seen it, we can wait. There's Amazon. It's one of the really extraordinary, I'll say Zen books, but there's a lot of books that are about Zen. This, like Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, he's showing you. These are Dharma talks, these are Teisho, and he's showing you, he's not telling you about it so much. In Zen, we don't really recognize or worship gurus or teachers. We don't idolize them. We don't put them on a pedestal. They're regular men and women who just stumbled onto this practice one way or another. Everybody's got a unique story about how they came to it. And they dedicated themselves to it. They committed to lifelong practice. And they woke up a little bit, or a lot. And were then moved to share that with you and me. But they're all different. Enlightenment does not create homogeneity among Zen teachers. I didn't really realize this. Zen Peacemakers has really been a lot of fun because I get to, and Hoden does too, we get to hang out with a lot of senseis and roshis, and they're as different as they could possibly be. And I've not had that experience prior to this, and I kind of had this illusion that, once this big thing happens, everybody is kind of similar and groovy in the same ways and stuff. And that's nonsense. It's just not true. That would be a robotic kind of a life, wouldn't it? I've met teachers that I just, didn't click with at all. I just, immediately didn't have a really warm, fuzzy feeling with at all, and still don't. And others that it was just instantaneous, intimate, personal, magical, and deep. Maezumi Roshi was of the latter kind. And even though he's passed away, he still is. He still is through these teachings that he left us. He still is through the living lineage that he left. He had 12 successors who have now produced over 200 Zen teachers in the world. One guy. Shishin Roshi here in Berthoud is one of those. And Geoff Sensei is a successor of Shishin Roshi's. So there's a direct line. Maezumi Roshi. I really appreciate this recent lineage. So in the spirit of our Ongo theme, which is appreciate your life as the awakened life, I went back to this book, Maezumi's outstanding book of talks, Appreciate Your Life for Inspiration. And I selected the second talk, just kind of randomly. In fact, I did this at Sesshin during the work period. I just opened it and said, let's go here. I didn't have an idea in mind. And it's called Endowed from the Start. And I had an idea what that must be about. You know, he's gonna reassure me that I'm okay, that I've got everything I need to practice Zen, that I've got a Buddha nature. That very childish kind of a thought about it. That I'm adequate. But that's not what he talked about mostly. That's not what I found in this, this talk that was probably, 30 minutes maybe when he gave it. Except for in the final paragraph. In the final paragraph, Maezumi Roshi says, "But do not forget that everything is with you to begin with. Have good trust in yourself, not in the lowercase one that you think you should be, but in the uppercase one that you are." He didn't say much more about Endowed from the Start than that. He said some other stuff that I'm going to talk about. Do not forget that everything is with you to begin with. Have good trust in yourself, not in the one that you think you are, or that you think you should be, but in the one that you are. That's it, as far as assuring me that I'm adequate. But it was enough for me. I liked that quite a lot. But very interesting, the rest of Roshi's talk in this piece called Endowed from the Start was about the very most basic rudiments of sitting Zazen. Those instructions are so familiar to all of us, and I was a bit puzzled why they dominated Roshi's talk about being endowed from the start. They're familiar because they come from Dogen, and they came through Maezumi Roshi to Shishin Roshi to Gyoto Sensei, and we use them today. They came through another of Maezumi Roshi's successors, Daido, who Gakyo learned from, and probably does her introduction. It's got a lot of Gakyo in it these days, which is beautiful, but the essence of it is from the 13th century in Japan. I don't want to, I don't like to do talks where I just read a lot, but I want to read. I want to read just a section of what he wrote that is this instruction. It's from Dogen's fascicle by the title of Fukan Zazengi, or the universal promotion of the principles of Zazen. It sounds like a corporate kind of a thing, but that's, it's, in another lineage that I was part of a long time ago, it was translated as Zazen Rules. And in that lineage, and I even think back in LA, whatever it was, 40 years ago, I think we chanted it every day. And I'll jump ahead of myself here a little bit, but and I'll ask the question again. But the question I had in my mind is, this is Maezumi Roshi. This is one of the most renowned Japanese Zen masters who brought Zen practice from Japan to the United States. One of 2 or 3 or 4 who were iconic and left lasting footprints in the sand. And he's talking to a very experienced audience that these talks were taken from, not beginners necessarily at all. But he's talking about the very most fundamental thing. So when I was, reading and writing on Saturday, I looked at this tonight, and I had to think, I don't know if anybody watched Saturday Night Live, Kenan Thompson, what's up with that? What's up with that? That he's taking the second chapter in this book to talk about this. Our physical and mental postures are very important. The position of the hands, or the mudra, symbolizes the unity of opposites. It reflects a sense of harmony, a kind of completeness or perfection. There are two ways to form this mudra. According to both Keizan Zenji and Dogen Zenji, the founders of Soto Zen, you place your left hand on top of the right palm. There are different explanations for this. For instance, we say the right hand is the hand of yang, or active, and the left hand is yin, quiet or passive. So when we do Zazen, we put the left hand on the right hand so that the less active hand calms the active right hand and the activity of the body and mind. But when you see the statue of Mahavajrayana Buddha, the right hand is on the left palm. So there are two ways of forming the mudra. Figure that out. The tips of the thumbs lightly touching or held evenly in a horizontal position. Some people tilt their hands without realizing it. Hold your hands like the surface of still water, calm and without tension. Sitting too tensely or too loosely is reflected in your mudra. If your thumbs are pressed tightly and rigidly together, I can hear Gakyo right now. Or if your hands are apart and the thumbs don't meet, all these tell you something about your sitting. When sitting in half lotus position, your hands may rest on your foot. Let the mudra be well balanced, and I'll jump ahead. It's also important to pay attention to your feet. When we sit in the half lotus or in the full lotus, the tops of our feet rest on our thighs. I understand that there are about 700 acupuncture points and about 16 meridians, all relating to one particular point in the soul. In putting the feet in the half lotus or the full lotus, the soles are nicely stimulated. When you're on a chair, be aware of these principles and place the soles of your feet firmly on the floor. The soles of the feet are like the roots of a tree. The roots are growing, penetrating into the ground, not necessarily pushing their way into the earth, but naturally filling it. Have your body in the same way, solid and penetrating into the ground. And I'll jump ahead, I'll just read a little bit more of this. When you have settled your body, sway your upper body from side to side in large arcs, slowly decreasing the angle of swaying. As you decrease the angle of swaying, adjust your spine so that it is upright and let it settle in this upright position. Tuck your chin and let your eyes settle half open, setting your gaze about 3 to 4 feet in front of you at a 45-degree angle. Then start sitting. It doesn't go much into what that involves, but then start sitting. I love that. When you come out of Zazen, sway your body again. Talks about the breath. When you are settled for Zazen, take several deep breaths. In English, we say inhale and exhale. In Japanese, we say kokyu. Ko means exhalation, and kyu is inhalation. It may seem more logical for your inhalation to come first, but after settling your body, exhale first. When you exhale, exhale as much air as possible through your mouth, not your nostrils. Our exhalations are usually very small, so open your mouth slightly and exhale completely so that you feel your lungs are squeezed. You can bend slightly forward when exhaling. And he goes on in that manner. And like I said, he's drawing directly from Dogen Zenji, and that's why so many of these instructions that we hear are similar. That's not what I wanted to talk about. This renowned Zen master talking to senior students, some of whom have had transmission. in the Zen Center of Los Angeles, which is a wonderful place. He's talking about how to put your hands on your feet and how to exhale. So there must be something important about this. There must be something else to this, or something less to this. Otherwise, it would just be yoga. There's nothing wrong with yoga, but otherwise, that's what it would be. And I believe there is, and I believe he tells us. We can consider these protocols in kind of a mechanical or a practical, physiological way. Sitting with your pelvis tilted forward a little bit, and got a nice S-curve to your back, makes it so that you can not put any undue pressure on organs and so forth, and you can sit for a long time. Very practical. Having 3 points of contact, your sits bones or your butt, and either 2 knees or 2 feet. It's stable, it's a tripod, it's universal, it's physics. You're not going to tip over. Keeping your eyes partway open keeps us from slipping off into fantasy or falling asleep. Looking down keeps us from being distracted by the rest of what goes on in the room. There's a whole practical aspect to this. All of those things are intended to enhance alertness, relaxed attention and focus. It's brilliant, really, it's beautiful. But it's more than that, isn't it? There's something else up here for him to put such primary focus on these basic instructions. And he tells us, Roshi said, Zazen is the practice and the realization of manifesting our body as enlightenment. You notice he says body. He didn't say spirit. He didn't say soul. He didn't refer to anything magical or mystical or unseen. He referred to this thing. Not metaphorically, literally. This thing that, the most amazing machine ever. But it breaks down. It gets COVID. It gets stiff and sore, it gets sick, and it dies. But he's saying, this is it. Stick with this. When we do Zazen, that's what we're doing. We're sticking with this. When we sit in this way, we have the chance to fully inhabit our bodies. We kind of have to, because the bell rang and we're here for 30 minutes. And unless you go screaming out of the zendo, pulling your hair out, you're kind of stuck with your body there. And the thought secreting machine that is also relentless. How often, I'll speak for myself, I'll answer my own question. How often during my day do I forget my body? All the time. All the time. Or worse, neglect it, not feed it well, not give it enough sleep. All for good reasons. There's really important stuff going on that's got to be attended to, so I don't have time to eat. I kind of take my body for granted. I understand average people respirate, inhale, exhale, 17,000 to 24,000 times a day. Now, I just looked that up. I don't actually know, and I'll confess, I didn't count. We're only taught to count to 10, thanks to Gakyo. So I would have lost track so long before 17,000. And we all practice paying attention to our breath. But maybe on a good day, I might really pay attention to 100 or 2, maybe. During retreat, maybe 1,000. I don't know. But when I consider that this thing that I'm doing, or that's doing me, my breathing is doing me, fortunately I don't have to monitor it, it does it by itself. But if I don't do it for 5 minutes, I die. I might want to keep a closer eye on this. It's insanely intimate. So the specificity of our Zazen posture connects us to our life in the most intimate and profound way. Deeper than thought, deeper than belief, deeper than faith. It may take faith to realize that, but it's a profound connection. Kind of like this. Roshi went on to say this: since body and mind are not two, which is interesting that he just starts with that. He doesn't try to talk you into that first. He takes that as a given. Since body and mind are not two, this body is ungraspable. And yet there's a way to appreciate the ungraspable by being it. Ding, 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 ding. Zazen. The whole, complete being manifesting as is. Just this aging, creaky, imperfect, expiring body. He says, everything is here right now. There's no need to look any further. There's no need to look for any further accomplishment or attainment of anything. We are transcending the subject-object relationship. We are transcending duality. I thought about that, and I wanted to say it in my own words. And so he may well have said, it's all right here in our bodies, in how we take the posture, in how we breathe in our Zazen. If only we still down the chatter and listen to it. So as we enter the walled garden of Ongo and dwell peacefully together, let's recommit to the first principles. Seems apt here at the beginning to kind of go back to the very beginning, to always be in that introductory Zen course. Here's how you do this. Because we never get past that. You know, part of my question was, why isn't he talking about stuff that's a little more esoteric or more advanced? When do we get to the Zen? Well, he got to it. We never get past this. World Series is coming up. Even in baseball, they don't go to spring training and teach guys how to throw and catch the ball. They've moved past that. That's why the Dodgers are not Zen students. I don't know. I get off track with that, but Dodgers are doing pretty well. So let's recommit to these first principles of our practice and pay our most sincere attention to our forms, to our bodies, to our breath, and to watching what our minds do. Again, the thought secreting machine isn't going to stop. We just need to be aware of it and not get caught up in it. Every single detail is important of how we move around, what this body does, what it feels, what it touches, what it hears, what it smells, tastes, everything. All that is that is our life. That is our life. And our Zen practice, I think, this is just my opinion, but it's to completely inhabit that. Two parts together. That's why we do this. Every detail, every one, and take this lightly. I don't mean this as a judgment, but as I was kind of making these notes on Saturday, I was outside the door to the Zendo and I was looking at our shoes. Everybody here can picture our shoes sitting there outside the door. Were all those shoes placed very deliberately and intentionally? Or were they kind of kicked off and left where they landed? Is it conscious? Is it random and mindless? We have that opportunity all the time. Our shoes are an expression of our life. Our shoes are an expression of our mindset. So everything we do is just so, or it can be. Not that it's right versus wrong, not that it's better versus poor, not that it's correct, but that the doing of it is whole. It's whole. I was talking to somebody, during the retreat about wholeness making. What we're doing. Everything our teachers do is just so. I was going to say nothing, but maybe I should say perhaps little of what they do is perfunctory or automatic or rote. Watch them. Watch Goto Sensei. If you practice with Shōun Roshi, he's a living treasure. Watch him. Simply watch him walk into the Zendo. Watch him bow. Watch him sit down. Watch him do work on the farm. I went out to this is 10 or 15 years, I don't know, years ago, went out one day to help him put a roof on one of the buildings. I don't remember what it was. Jodo probably remembers, you were probably living there then. But so I was up on the roof with them, and and he hit his thumb with the hammer. He said, "Fuck!" And it was a little teaching for me. It hurt. It hurt, and he was fully right there. So this is how we practice. This is how we dwell peacefully in this walled garden and outside the walled garden. And this is how Maezumi Roshi's teaching comes to us. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that made some sense. Thank you for listening. I went a little long, but I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.